Okay, hi. Here I am with Brian Flinn, who's the Chief Marketing Officer of WWE. And WWE, of course, is a global media marketing and entertainment company. Hi, Brian. Good to see you this morning. How you doing?
I'm great, Barry. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Great. I love that scene behind you. Is that real or is that a painting from an impressionist 1800s artist?
It's just the weather in Stamford, Connecticut today, I promise.
Wow, looks gorgeous. Good for you. Hey, Brian, tell us firstly about the depth and breadth of WWE.
So WWE is a global media and entertainment company. We look at our lines of business akin to Disney. There really isn't a consumer touch point that we don't have. We do about $1 billion in revenue annually, and our market cap is somewhere between $4 and $5 billion right now.
Pretty significant. And look, we've all gone through this period of quarantining, and how has your programming strategy changed at all during this to your viewers?
Yeah, it's less about the strategy changing, and I would say it's more, Barry, it's more about the execution changing. And so if you look at the way that we've developed our ecosystem, WWE is platform agnostic, right? We produce content for our fans wherever, whenever, however. But the reality that we faced in March is the venues where we produce our content, or I'll call it the live studios where we create our content, were obviously closing. And so we needed to pivot in how we were executing. And so we moved all of our production facilities down to the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, where we train hundreds of aspiring superstars on a regular basis. And we took that 27,000 square foot facility and turned it into a closed set with only essential personnel, and continued to produce our content on a regular basis. And one of the few properties that never missed a beat. We followed the guidance of our medical staff, and we were able to create a sort of a quarantine situation where our performers were coming in, going through screenings, and producing our content without stopping. And as that progressed over the summer and testing became more widely available, obviously we incorporated that into our safety precautions. And then when it really became abundantly obvious that putting people back in venues was going to take much longer than people anticipated, we pivoted and we created something called the Thunderdome, which essentially we moved out of the Performance Center. We took residency at the Amway Center, and we created this immersive experience with virtual seating, thousands of fans in a virtual seating environment that really is like nothing you've seen on television. From the production spectacle that we can produce, WrestleMania quality, our top event quality on a weekly basis, with thousands of fans coming in. And to date, we've probably brought almost 200,000 fans into that Thunderdome experience. So it's been, an incredible run for us, and the adversity has created opportunity, quite frankly.
One of the great successes for a sports and entertainment company, we've seen so many that haven't done well, or some that are basically have tried steps and gone back. I think maybe the NBA and you are leading examples of successfully driving the business through this period. So well done. It's really great to hear. And I would say, Brian, in addition to television, you've got fans that experience your brand, your sports and entertainment across all touch points. Can you talk a little bit about that in addition to television?
Yeah, I would say we're fortunate enough that we were ahead of the curve when it comes to digital and social media, and that came right from the top. This is, call it 10 years ago, Vince McMahon giving an edict to the company to make the land grab, that was social media. In fact, early in my tenure here, we were all responsible, all the senior executives were responsible for sending Vince a weekly report with details as to how we personally were using social media to make connections with fans or business partners. And really the exercise was about creating habit. right? How are we changing our behaviors? And that obviously then flows throughout the organization. And you look at where we are now, 1 billion social media followers around the world. We have the #1 sports YouTube channel in the world, and #4 or 5 channel overall. So we've created this moat for our business with all of these points of connection across social media, and it pays dividends. It becomes obviously promotional vehicle for all of our businesses, but in today's world and the way that consumers are behaving, it becomes literally their point of connection and their consumption of our product.
Really smart and really prescient that happened early on, because of course consumers are now used to consuming entertainment and marketing and sports across all media. So good to see you guys were early on it. And in terms of the marketing you mentioned, how do you market the brand? And since this is a digital out-of-home conference, how do you utilize out-of-home advertising?
So we're uniquely positioned, and I'll say we're incredibly fortunate that we have 7 hours of live primetime programming every week, 52 weeks a year, no off season. And not every property can boast that. And on some weeks, we're doing as much as 13 hours of primetime programming. So all of that is in of itself great marketing, but with it comes inventory to help promote some of our other products and services. And that creates a real unique advantage for us across the marketplace. On top of that, not only are we distributing massive amounts of content during prime time, but our distribution partners, those that are invested in us, like Fox and NBCU here in the United States, BT in the UK, Sony in India, Supersport in Africa, the list goes on. They're also using inventory across their entire portfolio to promote our product and our services. So we've got a lot of weight behind all of the programming that we're producing. And so from an upper level perspective, we've got ourselves covered. Then you sort of dive into the lower funnel tactics, and we've got marketing teams across all of our business units that are specifically responsible for using the digital and social media that are available to us to really drive conversion. And whether that's for WWE Network from a subscription standpoint, our consumer products business, and our e-commerce business, or when the world course corrects itself to a degree when we're back selling tickets, those are all business units that are then taking advantage of these upper funnel tactics that create great reach and scale to drive conversion. On top of that, we've got great event partners for our marquee events. When we go into a city, we don't go it alone, and our partners bring with those plans to launch these big events great out-of-home inventory to us. That really makes it feel like WWE has arrived and takes over a city for these marquee events. So we've really got, quite frankly, great partnerships that help us drive reach and awareness, and then tactically we drive conversion, business unit by business unit.
That's great. Thanks for taking us up and down the funnel. We've always seen here at Out of Home that traditionally Out of Home was great at the top of the funnel with brand and reach. And now because of all the metrics and targetability and data, we are also able to kind of go down the funnel as well to actually enable sales and conversion. So that was a very interesting model. You're a very agile company, yet you're a huge organization. How important is agility, and how do you keep fomenting that, Brian?
So yeah, we are agile, and we're fortunate that we operate in a very entrepreneurial way. And again, that's top down. We come in every day and we've got a mantra of first day on the job thinking. And that's not to suggest that what you did yesterday is wrong, but it is to suggest that you need to take a look at everything that you did yesterday and make sure it's the right way to be doing things. And if it's not, there's an expectation that we move quickly to change course. And so that's sort of a way that we just operate as a leadership team and as an organization. More importantly, I see there's four ways that you can, or four things that you need to do to stay agile. And one is, in today's world, it's having access to data. And we've shifted our business tremendously over the past couple of years, most notably with the launch of WWE Network, where we have access to consumer data and we can really understand consumption metrics. Having access to that data is great, but it can be overwhelming. And so you've got to quickly get to actionable insights, right? You can't be in a situation where you're looking at paralysis by analysis. And organizations, particularly in today's environment, can get overrun easily when you've got access to new data. Having a team of people who are responsible for taking that data and doing something, making something actionable out of it is critical to being agile. And then I would say the third piece of that is really being willing to take calculated risks and make decisions. And we've got a long history of doing that. We really don't have that problem of being able to make decisions and move quickly. And then I would say the fourth piece is really execution. And is the team of people willing to take all the information that you've gathered, all the insights that you have, and the decision that's made, and is the organization willing to row together in the same direction and execute flawlessly? And if you've got those four components, I think you've got a really good chance at being agile and being able to either anticipate trends and make decisions, or in some cases, like we've all had to recently, react and make decisions.
Excellent. How to Be Agile by Brian Flinn. Excellent. Great 4 points. Thank you. Look, you're a large company that's agile, Brian. And in addition to that, you're, of course, spanning continents and countries. Where are you now in terms of countries? And as you tell us a little bit about that, can you speak? There's a term, let's see, it's think global and act local. So maybe you could tell us how you adjust to local markets in terms of the consumer base as well.
Yeah, sure. So right now our reach is to 180 countries and 800 million households and 28 languages. So we've got great coverage around the world. And we've coined the term global localization, meaning, think global, act locally. And we've spent a lot of time sort of really digging into what does that mean to act locally. Fortunately for us, our brand, our characters, our stories, they transcend boundaries and cultures quite easily, right? So the stories of good versus evil, or the hero's journey, those are easily understood concepts, no matter where you come from in the world. And we've also got this the benefit of bringing people together and creating common bonds. It doesn't matter what your ethnicity is, or what your political beliefs are, what your gender or age is. Great stories about heroes and villains, is time tested and has proven to bring people of all different backgrounds together. But the reality is, when you're trying to localize a product, you've got to stop thinking quote unquote internationally. Right? If you're having international conversations at your organization, you should put a halt to them. It's just not the way to think about it. The way to think about it is, what is my business in the UK? What is it? And if you're having conversations about what your business is like in Latin America, you should stop those conversations and start having conversations about what is your business like in Mexico. How is your brand resonating in Brazil or Chile or Argentina? I would say the same thing about the Middle East, right? Real easy for businesses to talk about how we're performing in the Middle East. I would stop those conversations as well and say, what are we doing in UAE? From our experiences, I would even say having a conversation about how you're performing in Jeddah versus Riyadh when you're talking about Saudi Arabia. Those are substantive conversations, and if you start having those, then you really start to understand what acting locally is all about.
Really, really smart. Brian, the period's been challenging for all of us. How have you personally and professionally and adjusted to all of this, and any kind of guidance for our audience today?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, we know we're not out of the woods yet, right? And so I think we're all sort of adjusting to what this new normal will be. Early on, I think our organization and the leaders across our organization did a good job of creating flexibility for people, right? At a time where everyone was in need and everyone was questioning which direction they should be going in, it was important to give people the flexibility to make sure they could take care of their families and still contribute to work in an environment that was unknown to all of us. And we're still going through that process, right? What is our organization going to look like from a flex work model is something that we talk about all the time. And I think employees now have that expectation, right? That we've not missed a beat as an organization. And our workforce is 90% still at home. Very few of us, are spending a meaningful amount of time in the office. And that's really just by choice. And so I think that's going to be important as we move forward, of making sure that we understand what employees' needs are and what you can do to be flexible and still achieve your business goals. And then on top of that, I would just say the one other area that we've thrived in is with innovation, right? We've had opportunities to just continue to do the same thing the way that we've been doing it. And instead, we looked at opportunities of how we can innovate around our content. How do we push new content out, right? We've got this great ecosystem where we've established literally billions of points of connection with all of our fans. So how do you give them more? And just like, I think ESPN did a really good job. If you look at what was happening early on during COVID, they were sitting on gold with The Last Dance, the story of, Michael Jordan's last year with the Chicago Bulls, and they pushed it forward, right? They realized they had a captive audience, and they literally had gold in the content that they had created, and they were right. We were in a similar situation. We have our most iconic character in The Undertaker, who is winding down to hit the last of his 30-year career, and we too were sitting on gold with his content, and so we decided to push it forward and give people another point of connection to our brand that they would have otherwise had to wait for. So it's not just when you talk about innovation, it's in the thinking. It's not necessarily just in the technology and the background.
That's great, Brian. See, you really haven't changed the what, but you've changed the how during this period. And you've given us some all great lessons for a marketing company, a sports company, an entertainment company, and pointedly, as you summed it up, an employer of how to succeed and thrive and innovate during this period. So we thank you for that. And you've given us a veritable master class on all these aspects. So thank you, Brian Flinn, CMO of WWE, with a great background once again. And it's good to see you, Brian. Thank you for this.
Thanks for having me, Barry. Take care.